Welcome back, everybody. These are the best films of 1968. We got comedy, horror, thriller, romance, drama, crime, mystery. We got war, documentary. We have it all. These are the best films of 1968. Let's check them out. Mrs. Brown, You Got a Lovely Daughter. Friends Herman, Carl, Keith, Derek, and Barry are working-class Manchester lads who aren't getting far in their working lives. Mrs. Brown, You Got a Lovely Daughter. This is a jukebox musical comedy. Five-card stud. The players in an ongoing poker game are being mysteriously killed off one by one. Dean Martin, Robert Mitchum, Inger Stevens, and Roddy McDowell. Five-card stud. A Lovely Way to Die. A cop quits the force after too much disappointment in the system and becomes bodyguard to a rich recent widow on trial for her husband's murder. Kirk Douglas, Sylvia Koshina, and Eli Wallach. A Lovely Way to Die. Yellow Submarine, The Beatles. The Beatles agree to accompany Captain Fred and his yellow submarine and go to Pepperland to free it from the music-hating Blue Meanies. Paul McCartney, George Harrison, Ringo Starr, and John Lennon. Blackbeard's Ghost. Track coach Steve Walker accidentally evokes the spirit of notorious pirate Captain Blackbeard, who was believed dead. Peter Ustinov, Dean Jones, Suzanne Plachette, and Elsa Lancaster. Blackbeard's Ghost. The Brotherhood. The son of a powerful mafia don comes home from army service in Vietnam and wants to lead his own life. Kirk Douglas, Alex Cord, and Irene Papas. Bullet. A non-conformist San Francisco cop is determined to find the underworld kingpin who killed the witness under his protection. Steve McQueen, Jacqueline Bisset, and Robert Vaughn. Bullet. Here is another awesome movie poster for Bullet. Look at that detail there. Bullet, it was a car action, crime, and thriller. So there's two separate movie posters for Bullet. What was your favorite movie poster for Bullet? Charlie. An intellectually disabled man undergoes an experiment that gives him the intelligence of a genius. Cliff Robertson, Claire Bloom, Lila Scala. Charlie. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. A down on his luck inventor turns a broke-down Grand Prix car into a fancy vehicle for his children. Dick Van Dyke, Sally Ann Howes, Lionel Jeffries. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Coogan's Bluff. Arizona Deputy Sheriff Coogan is sent to New York City to escort an escaped fugitive back for trial. Susan Clark, Lee J. Cobb, and Clint Eastwood. Coogan's Bluff. Deadfall. Cat burglar Henry Clark and his accomplices Richard DeFame attempt to steal diamonds from the chateau of millionaire Salinas. Michael Caine, Giovanni Raleigh, and Eric Portman. The Devil's Brigade. A U.S. Army lieutenant colonel is tasked with forming an elite commando-style unit from crack Canadian troops and the dregs of the U.S. Army. William Holden, Cliff Robertson, and Vince Edwards. Don't Just Stand There. A young writer is sent to Europe on an assignment to finish the final chapters of a sex novel by a famous authoress who has decided to stop writing. Robert Wagner, Mary Tyler Moore, and Harvey Korman. Don't Raise the Bridge, Lower the River. An American plans to bilk the British out of some considerable money with the help of an English con artist. Jerry Lewis, Terry Thomas, Jacqueline Pierce. Dracula has risen from the grave. After a Monsignor accidentally brings Count Dracula back from the dead while exercising his castle, the vampire preys on the holy man's beautiful niece and her friends. Christopher Lee and Rupert Davies. Duffy. Duffy is a cunning aristocrat of criminals hired by Stefan, a young playboy, to hijack a boat carrying several $1 million. James Coburn, James Mason, and James Fox. The Private Navy of Sergeant O'Farrell. During World War II, Sergeant O'Farrell's Pacific unit is demoralized when a Japanese submarine torpedoes an American supply ship containing beer. Bob Hope, Phyllis Diller, and Jeffrey Hunter. Faces. starring John Marley, Gina Rowlands, and Lynn Carlin. A middle-aged man leaves his wife for another woman. Faces also stars Seymour Castle. Hot Millions. Paroled London fraudster Marcus Pendleton poses as a computer specialist in order to work for an insurance company that entirely relies on its corporate server. Peter Ustinov, Maggie Smith, and Carl Malden. Hot Millions. How to save a marriage and ruin your life. When carefree bachelor David Sloan tries to persuade his best friend Harry Hunter to drop his mistress, Corman, and return his wife. Dean Martin, Stella Stevens, and Eli Wallach. The Detective. While grappling with his wife's infidelity, an NYPD detective investigates the murder of a gay man. Frank Sinatra, Lee Remick, and Ralph Meeker, and Jack Klugman. Flesh. A man desperate for money and no income turns to prostitute and interplays with a variety of clients and hustlers. Joe D'Alessandro, Geraldine Smith, and Patty DeArbonell. Flesh. Funny Girl. The life of Fanny Bryce, famed comedian and entertainer of the 1900s. Barbra Streisand, Omar Sharif, and Kay Medford. Funny Girl, all-time classic. The Green Berets. Colonel Mike Kirby picks 2 steams of crack Green Berets for a mission in South Vietnam. John Wayne, David Jansen, Jim Hutton, and Aldo Ray. Greetings. 3 friends in New York City discuss how to dodge the draft in Vietnam, JFK's assassination, voyeurism, computer dating, and everything else. Jonathan Warden, Robert De Niro, and Garrett Graham. Hang 'em high. When an innocent man barely survives a lynching, he returns as a lawman determined to bring the vigilance to justice. Hang 'em high. Clint Eastwood, Edgar Stevens, and Pat Hingle. Head. The monkeys frolic their way through a series of musical set pieces and vignettes containing surreal humor and anti-establishment social commentary, featuring the monkeys. Hell in the Pacific. During World War II, an American pilot and a marooned Japanese Navy captain are deserted on a small uninhabited island in the Pacific Ocean. Lee Marvin and Toshiro Mifune. Hell in the Pacific. He's your dog, Charlie Brown. When Snoopy is sent back to the puppy farm for obedience training, he free loads off peppermint patties instead. Peter Robbins and Gabrielle De Farina. He's your dog, Charlie Brown. How to irritate people. In this mock documentary, John Cleese narrates a series of sketches on irritation. John Cleese, Tim Brooke, and Graham Chapman. Next up we have is Ice Station Zebra. USN nuclear sub USS Tigerfish must rush to the North Pole to rescue the staff of Drift Ice Station Zebra Weather Station. Rock Hudson, Ernest Borgnine, and Patrick McCoon. If. In this allegorical story, a revolution led by pupil Mick Travis takes place at an old established private school in England. Malcolm McDowell, David Wood. If. The Great Silence. A mute gunfighter defends a young widow and a group of outlaws against a gang of bounty killers in the winter of 1898. Jean-Louis Trintignant and Klaus Kinski. The Great Silence. The Impossible Years. The eldest daughter of a professor of psychology at a large conservative university causes havoc. David Niven, Lola Albright, Chad Everett, and Ozzie Nelson. Interlude. A famous conductor gives an interview to a pretty young reporter. Oscar Werniff, Barbara Ferris, and Virginia Maskell. Interlude. Joanna. A provincial girl is entangled in the mod morality of London. Comedy, drama, and musical. Genevieve Waite, Christian Joyner. Joanna. Frankenstein's Bloody Terror. A man suffers from the curse of lycanthropy and seeks out the aid of a German doctor and his wife, who are experts in the occult. Paul Naschy and Diana Zerkowska. Frankenstein's Bloody Terror. Live a Little, Love a Little. Photographer Greg Nolan moonlights in 2 full-time jobs to pay the rent. Elvis Presley, Michelle Carey, and Don Porter. Madigan's Millions. When a deported gangster dies in Italy, the U.S. Treasury Department is very interested. Elsa Martinelli and Cesar Romero. Madigan's Millions. Night of the Bloody Apes. A doctor tries to save his son's life through a complicated heart transplant operation. Jose Elias Moreno and Carlos Lopez. Night of the Bloody Apes. The night of the following day. 2 men kidnap a girl off the streets, take her to a beach house owned by a drug-addicted stewardess, and hold her for ransom. Marlon Brando, Richard Boone, and Rita Moreno. The night of the following day. The Odd Couple. A New Yorker newly separated from his wife moves in with his best friend, a divorced sports writer, but their ideas of housekeeping and lifestyles are as different as night and day. Jack Klugman and Walter Matthau. The Odd Couple. Oedipus the King. The classic Greek tale of how a noble youth accidentally marries his own mother. Christopher Plummer and Lilia Palmer. The one and only genuine original family band. The 11th member of the Bauer family moves to Dakota Territory. Walter Brennan and Buddy Ebsen. Family band. Rachel. Rachel is a lonely school teacher who lives with her mother. When a man from the big city asks her out, she starts thinking about where she wants to go her life. Joanne Woodward and James Olsen. Panic in the City. An American agent is assigned to track down a renegade Soviet spy who is building an atomic device in Los Angeles. Howard Duff, Linda Crystal, and Stephen McNally. Pippi Longstocking. Pippi Longstocking, a super strong, red-headed little girl, moves into her father's house via Miquela and has adventures with her next-door neighbors Tommy, Annika, in this compilation film of a classic European TV series. Planet of the Apes. An astronaut crew crash lands on a planet where highly intelligent non-human ape species are dominant and humans are enslaved. Charlton Heston and Roddy McDowall. Por mis pistolas, for my guns. Fidencio Marinello goes to Arizona in search of an old silver mine that belonged to his great-grandfather. This stars the Mexican actor Cantinflas. For my guns. The Legend of Lila Claire. Editorial film director Peter Finch hires an unknown actress, Kim Novak, to play the lead role in a planned movie biography of late great Hollywood star. Kim Novak and Peter Finch. Pretty Poison. When a mentally disturbed young man tells a pretty girl that he's a secret agent, she believes him. Murder and mayhem ensues. Anthony Perkins and Tuesday Weld. Romeo and Juliet. When 2 young members of feuding families meet, forbidden loves ensues. Leonard Whiting and Oliver Hussey. Romeo and Juliet. Rosemary's Baby. A young couple trying for a baby moves into an aging, ornate apartment building on Central Park West. Mia Farrow and John Cassavetes. Rosemary's Baby. Next up we have is Santo versus the Villains of the Ring. Santo fights a group of phony spiritualists who are trying to scam his goddaughter out of her 6 million peso inheritance. And again, the Mexican wrestler kills criminals and aliens. Sebastian. During the Cold War, the chief of British intelligence code-breaking section falls in love with a new employee and shields an old co-worker accused of communist affiliations. Dirk Bogarde and Susan York. The Sergeant. A story of a brilliant master sergeant with a great career behind him and transferred yet to another post. His attraction to a younger man eventually overrides him. Rod Steiger, John Philip Law. Shadow over El Everon. A corrupt sheriff knows the secrets of everyone in town and uses that information to go unchallenged. James Francois, Shirley Knight, and Leslie Nielsen. Chalaco. In 1880 New Mexico, a group of European hunters runs afoul of the Apache but is aided by an ex-cavalryman turned guide. Chalaco. Sean Connery and Bridget Bardot. Skidoo, infamous psychedelic all-star comedy about ex-gangster Tony Banks. Jackie Gleason, Carol Channing, and Frankie Avalon. Skidoo. Speedway, poor bookkeeping saddle stock car driver Steve Grayson with a huge bill for back taxes, which hampers his ability to continue racing. Elvis Presley and Nancy Sinatra. Bill Bixby. Stay Away Joe, a mixed-race American Indian rodeo champ, returns to the reservation to help his people out. Elvis Presley, Burgess Meredith, and Joe Blondell. Stay Away Joe. Next that we have is The Brotherhood. Kirk Douglas, Alex Cord, and Irene Papas. The son of powerful mafia don comes home from his army service in Vietnam and wants to lead his own life. The Brotherhood. The classic film we have is The Little Drummer Boy. An orphan drummer boy who hates humanity finds his life changed forever when he meets three wise men en route to Bethlehem. The Little Drummer Boy. The Private Navy of Sergeant O'Farrell. During World War II, Sergeant O'Farrell's Pacific unit is demoralized when a Japanese submarine torpedoes an American supply ship containing beer. Bob Hope, Phyllis Diller, and Jeffrey Hunter. The Shoes of the Fisherman. After spending decades in a Siberian gulag labor camp, Roman Catholic priest Kiri is set free by Russian leader Pilate. Anthony Quinn and Laurence Olivier. The Shoes of the Fisherman. The Smugglers. The hard 20s with the world crises and alcohol was not allowed. Beard Owie. The Smugglers, Action and Crime. The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Dr. Jekyll experiments with scientific means of revealing the hidden, dark side of man and releases a murderer from within himself. The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. The Boston Strangler. Tony Curtis, Henry Fonda, and George Kennedy. A series of strangulation murders of Boston women sparks a protracted, complex manhunt. The Boston Strangler. The Producers. A stage play producer devises a plan to make money by producing a surefire flop. Zero Mostel, Gene Wilder, and Dick Shawn. The Producers. The Scalp Hunters. Forced to trade his valuable furs for a well-educated escaped slave, a rugged trapper vows to recover the pelts from the Indians and later renegades that he killed them. Burt Lancaster and Shelley Winters. The Shoes of the Fisherman. After spending decades in a Siberian gulag labor camp, Roman Catholic priest Kiri is set free by Russian leader Pilate. Anthony Quinn and Laurence Olivier. The Swimmer. A man spends a summer day swimming as many pools as he can all over quiet suburban town. Burt Lancaster and Janet Langford. The Swimmer. Young Wolves. Adelaide. A young wolf, elegant and racy, is maintained by the Princess Lizani. Christian Hay and Hayley Poliff. Young Wolves. Drama. The Anniversary. Three sons who work in the family construction business help their overbearing mother celebrate her anniversary to her late husband. Betty Davis, Sheila Hancock, and Jack Headley. The Anniversary. The Girl on a Motorcycle. A married woman leaves her husband and zooms off on her motorcycle to see her lover. Marianne Faithfull and Alan Dillon. The Girl on a Motorcycle. The Lion in Winter. 1183 AD. King Henry II's three sons are all want to inherit the throne. Peter O'Toole, Katharine Hepburn, and Anthony Hopkins. The Lion in Winter. The Shakiest Gun in the West. A pardoned stagecoach robber becomes government agent and marries a naive, unsuspecting East Coast dentist in order to join a wagon train and catch the smugglers who have been selling guns to the Indians. Don Knotts and Barbara Rhodes. The Split. Thieves fall out when over $500,000 goes missing. Jim Brown, Diana Carroll, Ernest Borgnine, and Gene Hackman. The Split. What's so bad about feeling good? A new infection that simply makes people feel happy is treated as a threat by the authorities, while its victims work to spread it to others. George Peppard, Mary Tyler Moore, Don Stroud, Susan St. James, and Dom DeLuise. Where Eagles Dare. Allied agents stage a daring raid on a castle where the Nazis are holding American Brigadier General George Carnaby prisoner. Richard Burton, Clint Eastwood, and Mary Ure. Wild in the Streets. A young man gained significant political influence as the leader of a counterculture rock band with his rallying cry of voting rights for teenagers. Christopher Jones, Shelley Winters, and Diana Barcy. With 6, you get Egg Roll. 2 widowed people fall in love and marry, unprepared for the hostile reactions of their children. Comedy, drama, and romance. Yours, Mine, and Ours. A widower with 10 children falls for a widow with 8, and they must decide about forming a huge unconventional family. Lucille Ball and Henry Fonda, and Van Johnson. Oliver. After being sold to the mortician Sorry Boy, young orphan Oliver Twist runs away and meets a group of boys trained to be pickpockets by their elderly mentor Fagin in 1830s London. Martin Lester and Ron Moody. Lady in Cement. During an ocean dive, Miami gumshoe Tony Rome finds a woman's body with her feet encased in cement. Lady in Cement. Journey to Shiloh. At the beginning of the Civil War, 7 friends embark on a cross-country journey in order to ship Confederate Army. James Caan, Michael Sarrazin, and Brenda Scott. Herbie the Love Bug. Down on his luck, race car driver Jim Douglas teams up with a little VW bug that has a mind of its own. Dean Jones, Michael Lee, David Tomlin, and Buddy Hackett. No Way to Treat a Lady. A crafty serial killer plays a game of cat and mouse with a hairy police detective trying to track him down. Rod Steiger, Lee Remick, and George Siegel. Once Upon a Time in the West. A mysterious stranger with a harmonica joins forces with a notorious desperado to protect the beautiful widow from a ruthless assassin working for the railroad. Henry Fonda, Charles Bronson, and Claudine Cardinal. Prudence and the Pill. Wealthy London banker Gerald, his wife Prudence, his mistress, and his family and servants all get involved in ill comic hijinks. Deborah Kerr, David Niven, and Robert Coote. Prudence and the Pill. Those are the best films of 1968. Let me know which films came out that you remember seeing them. There's blockbusters, there's Oscar winners, horror, drama, romance, crime, thriller. We got dramas, we got war movies, we have it all. 1968 was another great year for Hollywood. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, leave them below. I'm Tony, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.